Once again, back here with that hashtag show, Flowbo Boys. You may know my guest formerly as Colossal, but he's a top dog to me. Please welcome Jonah. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Look, I gotta start with the top question, all of the rough questions here. The top shelf stuff.
Mhm.
Jonah Drome, is it coming back? What's going on with that?
Well, yeah. I've had a few people ask me about that. I decided as I got busier on the road to sort of scale it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I will be doing episodes in the future, but for now, it's just on pause for now.
Yeah. I mean, the vlogging content thing is a grind, and so I
Yes,
totally get it. You're like, you know what? I'm,
definitely.
I'm, I'm gonna take a break. Look, I don't want to bury the lead here. You are your own forbidden door. You are
Yes.
traveling from promotion to promotion, Impact, but most like notably New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. What's that been like going through these promotions, seeing different locker rooms, just seeing the world with your craft?
Very cool. I was able to do a little bit of work with New Japan before signing to WWE. I actually did their tour they did in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always, right before signing with WWE, there was talks of me actually going to New Japan and doing more then, but I'd actually been signed with WWE. So it's been cool to actually be able to have that opportunity to work with New Japan Strong. And eventually, once the borders and everything work well, I'll be able to actually go to Japan and work for New Japan over there. Impact, very much the same. It was a place that I always looked at. Obviously, couldn't work there because I was part of NXT, but now that the doors are open, I'm sort of kicking them all down.
Yeah, I mean, what's that like? To be on one promotion under a different character name and then having a chance to reinvent. I guess the small question is, Jonah Rock is no more. It's just Jonah. But the big question
Yes.
is, what's the next chapter for your career? What's that look like this year and beyond?
This year is sort of just finding myself again. I feel like Bronson Reed was his own thing. I very much became that, and I did whatever they needed me to do in NXT. And it was an extension of myself, much like Jonah Rock was before I signed to WWE. And now Jonah, its own, is something a little bit different. So it's finding what that difference is. And I'm being able to explore that in multiple promotions, which is really cool because, I still get to do the American televised style of wrestling with Impact. And then at the same time, I get to do the New Japan style of wrestling with New Japan Strong. So I'm sort of getting the best of both worlds. And at the same time, I'm picking up some indie promotions here and there as well.
Can you explain that a little bit to the uninitiated? Because I think I know what you mean, but the idea of what's required of you on American television compared to the Japanese style, at least modern style today.
Yeah, of course. I feel like New Japan, and I actually wrestled with Pro Wrestling Noah for a few years back in 2013, 14, and 15. It's very much captured like a sport. So you're in there wrestling, and the cameras just capture you. Whereas the big difference with American television is that you are working to those cameras. So I learned a lot of that under the guidance of two of the very best, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I got to learn a lot from them, and now I'm still able to do that. Very much similar with Impact. They work the cameras very, very much the same, and it's a taped show.
Yeah.
Whereas again, New Japan, they're sort of just trying to capture, in essence, the sport of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a wrestling fan. I can say this without any shred of irony now because I'm
Yeah.
old for about 30 years. And it's cool to see how the sport has evolved and changed. And I know that a lot of fans get their nostalgia back for certain eras, but I think now wrestling is at a fever pitch. And as someone that was a former thick boy myself, I wanted to ask your opinion about the changing perceptions and misconceptions of larger athletes in the ring, especially when it comes to working with different other styles and different other body types when you're working your matches.
Yeah, I feel like professional wrestling, much like any other sport or entertainment, you need all different types of bodies, all different types of styles.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite wrestlers are cruiserweights, and there's stuff that they do that I could never do, but then it's the same vice versa. You sort of need everything. I think the biggest misconception with a body type like myself is that, I've had haters online say like, oh, he's lazy, he's this, he's that. And then they don't actually see me behind the scenes when I'm powerlifting. Or literally 2 months ago, I did a bench press of 500 pounds. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
This is not an average man.
Right.
So I feel like people need to see those behind the scenes and treat all the athletes in different respects. There's someone like a Will Ospreay, for example, who is incredible. He can do some crazy things in the ring, he's not going to be bench pressing 500 pounds. And that's nothing against Will. But vice versa, I'm not going to be doing a Phoenix 450 splash.
Yet. Maybe coming soon, I guess.
Maybe. I got to practice some more.
We're seeing a lot now with the taking back the independent nature of professional wrestling. A lot more talent are betting on themselves, to use a phrase, with different promotions and all that. Not trying to get you in trouble here, but let me ask you this: has it been more of a challenge, or has it been easier to establish your own brand, to build your own buzz with social media, or is it kind of like, hey, there's a lot of noise out there, it's kind of challenging to break through?
I think it's very challenging at the moment. Like, I think you're right. Wrestling is at a fever pitch. I think it's headed towards another boom period where you do have so much product out there that there's always something for someone to watch. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a fan of a New Japan Strong, an Impact, an AEW, WWE, like there is so much going on, and including the independents as well. But at the same time, that means there's a lot of people trying to break through. There's a lot of people trying to get contracts. There's a lot of people trying to get seen. So I always just try to stay the steady path of what I do is what I do.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you jump on board. If you don't, you don't need to.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I got to say that it is kind of surreal talking with you, because your music and NXT and the other promotions has been like my workout themes for so long. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like,
good.
It's kind of like, I'm coming, y'all. I'm ready for war. No,
I'm happy.
Thank you so much. No, it's kind of interesting because we see how people are leveraging social media. Like, let's see what Matt Cardona is doing. And well, even with Zack Ryder before that, you know, the whole era of leveraging it. But I almost feel like there is a challenge for that newer generation to find a way to break through, to see yourself doing it, to see yourself get yourself a demand. Having you appear in different promotions is pretty much the blueprint, whether you were intended not to be or haven't. It's been kind of cool to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is hard for some of the guys breaking in. I was sort of at a lucky time, not a lucky time, but I'd been wrestling for over 10 years. And then as I was getting signed was when AEW's Inception was happening. NXT was really hot. So they were looking for a lot of the indie wrestlers. Mm-hmm. I know, unfortunately, at the moment, WWE isn't really looking that route for independent wrestlers anymore. They're going more towards athletes. And AEW, again, is getting very full. So it is going to be harder for some of the new guys that haven't had that platform before to try and break through. You know, I was lucky that even though I did get released, I built my name in NXT, and I'm lucky enough to then be able to go out into the wrestling world and find myself. Whereas, these other people have to gonna come up with different things to try and stand out.
Yeah, you know what? Even though I am asking you questions that we're on an interview, and I guess don't have to say this, but I really feel like people don't really give you the credit for the nuance of what the former Bronson Reed did, especially given the format on that show. I'm just a big fan. I bought the merch.
Oh, thank you.
Bought the merch. I bought the t-shirts.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the fans and people that understood what I was doing.
Oh, thank you. But let's talk New Japan Strong. February 17th, Rivals. It looks like you and Tito are going against FinJuice. And look, I don't know about you, but FinJuice, their chemistry is on point. Maybe a challenge for the top dog. You have anything in your game plan, anything in your toolbox ready for that match?
Yeah. I mean, that's been the hardest thing is I've gone into this feud with a well-established tag team. You know, they were former New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP tag champions and former Impact tag team champions as well. It just so happened that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time when I made my debut, and I had to stomp some people in. So that's continued, and now I've recruited Tito. And I think the world of Bad Dude Tito, I think, is a fantastic athlete. Again, another guy that should have broken through a little bit more. And I'm hoping this New Japan Strong platform gives him that light and people get to see him a little bit more. But whenever you're in a new tag team, it's about finding that chemistry. So me and Tito need to find that. The only thing I can say that FinJuice doesn't have that we have is just absolute power.
Yeah. What's it like working with Tito? Did you guys like meet in a bar, a gym, like a juice bar? Like what was it like?
I mean, it's been really cool. You know, I haven't been able to see a whole lot of like the SoCal scene, but New Japan Strong primarily are working a lot on the West Coast, which is really cool. And he's been pretty influential in that West Coast scene in the independents for a little while. And through New Japan Strong, he was wrestling Juice, and that's where I saw him and thought, okay, this is something that could work.
Is there a pressure for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong to stand out against other promotions in the area as well as New Japan Classic? And if so, are you feeling any of that pressure?
I think there's always pressure. I always try to put pressure on myself on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. I'm very loyal to wherever I do work. I was very loyal with NXT, and I know there was the Wednesday Night Wars and things like that. So every time I went out there, I wanted to make sure, okay, my segment is going to stand out no matter what you're watching. And I think I'm trying to do the same thing with Strong. I think New Japan as a whole, everyone loves the New Japan product, but Strong is still a little bit down here and people aren't watching it as much. And I want people to start watching it in the same respect to what they watch in Japan. So I think I go out there every time with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, trying to prove something and trying to deliver something that people can enjoy.
Yeah. Personal question.
Yeah.
You're in the performing arts, and you literally put your body on the line, night in, night out, and even though we try to ignore the haters find a way of seeping through everything we do.
Of course, yeah.
How do you refill the cup, man? Like, how do you give so much all to an art form and then get hit with the hate? How do you block that out? How do you recover? What's the plan?
I think the biggest thing is to realize, especially social media is fake. No one's living their true self on social media. So
yeah.
a lot of the time, if I do have haters or anything like that say nasty things to me, I'm like, I don't care. I know they're just someone in their basement or on their phone. One time someone said something really I don't even remember what they said, but it was something bad. And then I clicked on their profile and then I realized it was like a teenage boy. He would have been 13 or 14. I'm like, there's no point in trying to go after someone like that. I am so obsessed with professional wrestling. I have been my whole life. I've been a fan since I can remember, since a little child. That there's nothing else that I really think about doing or nothing else that I really focus on other than this. So even if people want to hate on me for certain things, I know that I love this and people love getting to see me do it as well. So if I'm not for you, I'm definitely for someone else.
Yeah. Well, take me back to that time. We decided this is my path, this is my craft, this is what I want to do. I mean, was the network like, oh yeah, go for it, we encourage you, or wait, is that still a thing? I mean, we all came at a weird time where wrestling was on a kind of a down slope, a period. What was that like for you deciding, this is what I'm gonna do with my life?
Yeah, I mean, it for me, I was such a fan as a kid, and as a teenager, I discovered local wrestling, like independent wrestling in Australia, and I wanted to start straight away. I knew there was a training school I wanted to start, and my mother, she would not let me do it. She's like, you have to finish high school first before you do anything like that. So,
Right.
so I finished high school, and then literally as soon as I finished high school, I went and did a tryout, and I started in a dojo in Adelaide, which luckily enough, the coach, his name is Hartley Jackson. He actually coached at the Performance Center as well and wrestles in Japan. He actually had just been trained by Antonio Inoki himself. So he got trained by New Japan Pro Wrestling's own
wow.
Antonio Inoki. So the dojo he had started in my hometown, little town in Australia, was all New Japan influence. So all the training was very much the same, squats, that sort of young boy aspect. So that's the way I came into the business. And it was hard. For me, I thought it was something I was never going to make a career because it just seemed very far-fetched for a kid from a little town in Australia to ever get to the big leagues.
Yeah.
But as time went on and I'd been in it for so long, it started becoming a reality. And I was like, okay, I can really go for this. But you do have to make a lot of, you do have to, sacrifice a lot, I think, to be able to make it successsul.
Absolutely. Now, I admit I'm a little bit of a mark for Australia as I'm wearing my Sydney Roosters jersey.
I was going to say, I could see the rugby jersey.
Now, I've actually never been. So if you can help me out with some couple tips, some pro tips, not walking there being a completely total tourist. When I do touch down in Adelaide or Melbourne or Sydney, what should I do when I hit the down under, my friend?
I mean, for me, I'm always going to be biased because I'm from Adelaide. I think it's one of the greatest cities in the world. I know it was voted maybe one of the most livable cities in the world last year and the year before. Yeah. It's just very nice. The people are very nice. Everything's very chill, beautiful beaches. Everything's real close to each other. I know if you're going as a tourist, though, Sydney is definitely somewhere you want to go. It's very Australian. It's very iconic. They have a lot of things that tourists want to see.
Which is interesting because, saying I'm from Adelaide is okay, but saying I'm from Black Forest, I was like, oh, yes. Crap.
I made sure to do that on purpose because, I never thought anyone from Adelaide was going to be in WWE.
Yeah.
But then it happened to be that there was myself, Rhea Ripley, and Duke Hudson all there from Adelaide. We all know each
Right.
other. And I was like, well, I'm going to say the actual suburb, like the little place that I'm from in South Australia, rather than Adelaide to be different. And I
Yeah.
lived in Black Forest for maybe 10 years. So I was like, that's where I'm from.
Is that still in the heart? Is that still the hometown? Like,
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Respect, man. So a little bit of a scandalous journalist reporting, not really. February 4th, 2022, you tweeted, you implied, no, you explicitly said it, that you were available for international booking. Where do you want to
Yes.
go and what's left on the bucket list for Jonah?
100%. I want to go back to Australia. I'm in talks with some people there. That's something I want to do, return and obviously get to wrestle in front of my family and friends again, but also just those fans. A lot of those people supported me. A lot of people within the independent wrestling industry in Australia supported me as well. So I'd like to always give back when I can. So Australia is definitely on the top of the list. Japan is a close second, which, I'm a shoo-in once things get better with borders and stuff like that. I'm sure I'll be there. And the UK is on my list again because I had a really great time wrestling in the UK. With their fans and London. I love going to London. So hopefully I'll get to do all those things in the very near future.
Is there a singular goal for you in your career now? Do you think of a particular championship or something like that? Or it's kind of like, no, man, just go over, beat people up, get paid? Like, what's the philosophy?
I always try to make like goal by goal, if that makes sense. So when I was in NXT, it was to get on to the television product. Then it was to become North American champion. And then eventually it was supposed to be NXT champion. Unfortunately, those things didn't happen. Now that I'm in the position that I'm in now, I'd love to become the open weight champion for New Japan. I know Evil has the championship at the moment. I feel like that title suits me a lot. The sort of matches that you see happen with Ishii and those guys, those hard-hitting fights, like that's what I want to be involved in. But apart from that, you'd be crazy not to be like, I want to be the IWGP champion. So that's definitely on my list. And same goes with Impact. I want to be the world champion as well. So hopefully those things become a reality.
I'm pretty sure they will be a reality, but first things first, this week, New Japan Strong. It's going to be Finn Juice are going to be led to slaughter. No, I'm just kidding. You take Tito and Jonah. Yeah, they might be. Before we get out of here, any last words, any last information you want to share about that match, that event, more how people can connect with you?
Yeah, I think the tag match is going to be very good. If you got to see New Japan Strong on the weekend, was our first tag match with me and Tito versus Finn Juice. Some classic tag team wrestling. This one's going to be no different, maybe even more, but also New Japan Strong Rivals is going to have some surprises. There's obviously someone that's going to be wrestling Jay White that we don't know of, and I can guarantee you there'll be more surprises on top of that. So you do not want to miss it if you are in the LA area.
Oh, and put up your merchable, brother. Where can I buy your merch? Where want to buy
Of course. Yeah, you can buy my merchandise, Pro Wrestling Tees, / Jonah. I am going to have a big cartel available very soon. I don't have a link or anything for that yet, but in the next week or 2 weeks, you'll see that popping up as well.
Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you.